Welcome to the Saddle Talk Podcast, where country living meets real talk. Authentic stories, meaningful interviews, and down-to-earth wisdom with a little Southern charm. Saddle up.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Saddle Talk Podcast. Today, we have another special guest who I have known for 30 plus years. We didn't go to the same high school, but we were in the same high school fraternity. And later, we end up joining the same college fraternity. He went to Alabama A&M. He's an Alabama A&M alum. You know, I'm a Tuskegee alum. And, you know, they had a little rivalry, but nothing too spectacular. He is now a full-time top producing realtor in the Atlanta metro area. He also has over 15 years of experience in finance and marketing. His name is Sherman Giles, and I would like to welcome to the podcast. What's going on, Sherman? How you doing, man?
Man, please send me your cash out, man. I didn't know you were just gonna kind of basically tee me up like that, man. Golly, man. Thank you, my brother. It's been a long time, man. 30 plus years, boy.
Yeah, I know, right, man? It seems just like yesterday we were doing a pledge for fire. Yeah.
It's the best thing that happened to me.
I know, right?
Yesterday, man. Yeah.
That was some crazy days, man. Some good times, man.
Yeah.
So tell me about yourself, man, when it comes to real estate. And is that what you started out wanting to do when you graduated from college, or how did that all start about?
Heck no, man. To be honest with you, it's funny you mentioned that. I'll take you back to that chapter. In fact, I didn't even want to go to college, and especially being a son of a retired high school guidance counselor, Birmingham, 30 plus years as a counselor, all that. And I was always a decent student, but I remember this. This was Thursday back in the 90s, right? So, you know, Cosby Show was a big thing every Thursday night, right?
Yeah. That's part of the reason why I want to go to college.
Yeah, so the Cosby Show, what do you call it? Different World,
Different World, yep.
So my father, God rest his soul, you know, we just buried him in October. My dad came in there. I had not applied to one college yet. And my father was just like, hey, you know, he said, son, what's your plan? You know, you ain't said nothing about college or anything. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to school. I'm going to go out there to the plant and work where you are. You know, my dad worked at McWayne. So he was just like, nah, it's only going to be one person that walked through that gate at night, and that's going to be me. He said, you got two options. It was that old 90s ultimatum. Either you going to college or you going in the military, and I think I know which one is going to be best suited for you. And so I went to college, you know, made it through that chapter. You asked about when I finished college. I just kind of wanted to do what I saw on TV, man. I wanted the blue suit, the briefcase, all that.
The lawyer or the engineer, because that's what they were pushing like when we were in school.
Yeah, but, you know, so, and funny enough, I kind of wanted to be a nurse at first, but then I didn't want to leave A&M to go to UAH. I got on the hill, started having a good time, made some great connections, and finished up in marketing, man. And so I got my first job at the Birmingham News and Post Herald, worked there for a year.
I didn't know that, man.
Yes, worked there for a year and got some great experience. My cousin worked at a consumer finance field, JC. He was just like, hey, man, your frat brother Wesley Lewis is over at Wells. And so I floated my resume to to Wesley. Wesley was a good friend from a childhood friend of mine, my boy Andy, that grew up next door to me. They went to Bama together. So Wesley and I always had a rich relationship.
You talking about Wesley, Spring 96, Cap Alpha Wesley?
Correct, man.
Yeah, he pledged with Walt and Tony and them.
Our boys, that whole 96 line. So Wesley floated my resume to his branch manager. George Haney floated my stuff to Mike Hartsock. Hartsock gave me an opportunity, and that's when I got into consumer finance at Wells Fargo. Started right there in Bessemer, to be honest with you. So that's kind of how I got my start in finance, and really, really learning to like basically look at data, match the data points with people. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And learn how to sell. But I sucked at it at first, to be honest. Well, I was terrible, Travis. In fact, I'm not going to hijack your question, but I'll never remember this. It was a Friday night, and you know, Birmingham Fridays, you know, you go out, you fish fry, whether you at Platinum or whatever the happening spot is. I wasn't going out there Friday evening. So I was still living at home with my parents, man. Like a lot of folks when you first finish school.
Well, pretty much everybody was.
I'm just, man, listen, man, you getting the raw and real from old Sherman today. So my mother walked by my bedroom, was like, son, what's happening? You not out with the fellas or the brothers? I said, nah, Ma. I said, in fact, I kind of got work on the mind, and she set me up. She was like, well, what's going on, darling? And I bid it. I said, well, Ma, I said, I'm not really doing too well in this assignment. She said, well, is anybody else doing it? I said, yeah. She said, well, damn it, you can do it too. And I'm like, whoa, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it was the reassurance that I needed, man. And so I got around some good people, kind of closed some skills gaps. In fact, shortly after that, I transferred to another branch, and I got to tip my hat to this guy named two people, man. This guy named Kermit Turner. Kermit was real tough on me. Kermit went to Huffman, as a matter of fact. Kermit played ball, but he was older than us. But this
Okay.
guy was no nonsense, relatable, but he would push you. You understand what I'm saying? And he kind of took me on basically as an understudy, little brother type, taught me the game. And I also worked with another guy and spoke to him in the past few days ago, cat named Sheridan Hill. He's also a University of Alabama grad. But those two guys right there, we would just kind of sit in the branch, old plays, scenarios, and things of that sort. And they got my skill set down. You understand what I'm saying, man? You know, you're not just talking, but you relating to people. So I always owe a debt of gratitude to anybody that took it. And I've got other people that you'll probably hear me insert throughout this, because people think that you somehow arrived to where we are right now.
Right.
There was a lot of good ups and downs and ebbs and flows that get you through every chapter of your life to your present day, and with room to improve to go. And we owe it to give back to others that are coming behind us.
Right. You know, you touched on something, man, because a lot of times, you know, us as men, we try to take on everything like for ourselves, you know, and having a mentor and somebody that can watch and help guide and nurture you, man, is very important, because, you know, we sometimes we can have an ego thinking that we know everything, and, you know, and we'll take on and try to take on the whole burden ourselves. But with your mother coming in there, man, giving you that, like, you know, that little push that you needed, and then by those other gentlemen that you named that kind of like took you under their wing, you know, and then kind of taught you the rope, but still challenged you and encouraged you to, you know, make proper decisions and set you up for success, basically. Put you into position to where you can think for yourself, and also making sure that you're thinking on your toes, man. Because a lot of times when you are in business, man, you have to make split decisions, and you can't look back, man. You have to evaluate very quickly but effectively. And then you also have to make sure that, you know, once you make a decision, you have to stand on it, man. It is what it is. Now, not saying that you can't make mistakes and go back and reevaluate, but, you know, you have to be confident enough in yourself in order to make those decisions. And a lot of times that's where those mentors come into play. They basically help you with your confidence, because I know a lot of people that are smart, especially like, you know, doing this podcast. And then I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, like, well, how come you weren't doing this? Or how come you weren't doing that? You know, and I'm just like, they have a wealth of knowledge, but they haven't been pushed and nurtured in that direction and built up that level of confidence. You know what I mean?
Well, I know exactly what you mean, and I've lived it. So it's not always been easy, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I had some sort of just like horrible past, or I kind of started nothing, because I am fortunate. You know, we grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. So we actually had a lot of people who've kind of paved the way before us, whether it was a two-parent household like my brother and myself benefited from, other really, really good friend groups, regardless whether it was like little league sports, like you said, the high school fraternity. Lot of credit to my guys I grew up with, neighborhood friends, and then other relationships down the road. And so when you get out here going back to business and confidence, when you get knocked on your butt, one of the worst things or best things that could have happened to me is the very first time that I got fired from a job. Okay.
Wow.
And so that's happened twice in my career, fired twice, laid off once. And the last time I got terminated, which I knew I wasn't coming back, that's what prompted me to move and take the leap and bet on myself and go into real estate full time. Seriously.
You know, I did an episode one time, man, like his name is Curtis Cannon, and he said something that's so profound, and it's basically just what you just said. He says, sometimes your purpose come in your pain, come with your pain. And I was like, man, if that ain't the truth, man, because when you are down at your lowest, man, it's almost like you become desperate, man. So it's like, you know, you're going to sink or swim. So you have to, like, you know what, I'm just going to put my faith in myself and just go all at it, man. But it just sounds like that's what you're talking about, man. If I'm, you know, it sounds like it's relatable.
It is. So let me tell you something. Thank God I wasn't desperate, and I'll tell you why. In the early 2000s, I remember at the time I wanted to go out and just kind of I was just in a little bit of a spot, right? So I went to my aunt and I asked my aunt for basically to float me some money until I got paid. True, I told you I'm gonna give you the real, right?
Oh yeah,
And,
man. By
and
all
so
means, that's what this is for. That's what this platform is for.
listen, man, to float me some money until I got paid. And she told me no. All right. And she said the bank is closed. Those are her very words. And I got angry with her and I got offended because it's not like I'm not gonna pay her back. And I don't
Right.
have a habit of borrowing money from people. I'm just putting it out there. But she told me no. And so my dad was like, why didn't you come to me? My mom was like, why didn't you come to me? But that taught me a lesson. It taught me to don't basically bite off more than I can chew. Don't spend it every time it hits your hand. You don't have to go out there and just always let money run through your hands. And so so that made me build up a nest egg. So years later, when I got fired the first time, I kind of had some financial footing, to be honest, because I was out of work 8 months. I'll never forget that before I got another job. You see what I'm saying? So I was able to sustain myself. Fast forward, when I got laid off the second time, I ended up going back to work within 4 months. But this last assignment, I've been in real estate full time 6 years now. What prompted me was, and I kind of knew it wasn't going to be a long-term play, but I'm always going to show up and give my best no matter what's given to me. And I asked the guy, I said, can I ask you a question? Why are you talking to me like this? He looked at me and said, because I can. And when he said, because I can, as a human being, as a man, that did something to me. I didn't receive that well at all, man. So I didn't curse him, or I didn't cuss him, as they would say. But I just basically told him that my name is Sherman Giles, and that's how you will address me going forward.
Right.
Guy was like, well, hey, why are you screaming at me? I'm not screaming at you. I just talk loud. I'm real passionate about where we are in this space. He said, Mr. Giles, will you please leave? And I said, yep. So I went and grabbed my things and I left. I remember like it was yesterday. So I got home. My wife called and said, hey, Giles, what are you doing? I said, I'm watching Tamron Hall. She said, yeah, right. She said, in my own Sherman way, right? She said, yeah, right. What are you doing? I said, I'm watching Tamron Hall. She said, Giles. I said, yes. She said, Giles, Sherman, what did you do? Because she knows her husband, right?
Yeah.
So she said, I don't even want to know. She said, when I get home, ride with me so we can go pick up our daughter, right? We'll go pick up Reese. I got in the car. She turned and looked at me. She said, Sherman, you've never failed us and you never will.
Man. That we'll touch on that topic too. That's why it's so important, man, to have a loving spouse and a supportive spouse. And that's what the whole sanctuary, that's what marriage is all about, man. But go ahead and finish the story, man.
Travis, when she told me that, I was like, okay. She said, find what you want to do and do just that. Man, I took 2 days to myself, didn't announce it to anybody outside of my household. I went and signed up for real estate school. Didn't even tell her at the time, to be honest with you. Like, hey, what do you do? I think I was on Roswell Road getting the shoe signed. And she said, well, you got an interview? I said, I start real estate school next Monday. She was like, wait, we just not going to talk about this. You going full time? She was like, Sherman, you got to study. You got to stop drinking. You got to stop partying. And I was just like, it was never an issue if I could study. I just wasn't always a fan of it, but I know the benefit of it. Does that make sense? And so, man, I did it. Got to the other side of it. And I'll tell you this for anybody who's listening, okay? For anybody, because I think this is important. Because like I said, I don't just show up here as this, oh my God, Sherman, top producer. It's real work. Man, when I took the class, I aced the class. I made 90 plus in the class, okay? So that is indicative that I can study and retain information, okay?
Right.
Also, I went and took the test. I took the test twice. I failed that test by 1 point the first time, my brother. And the guy was like, Mr. Giles, were you in the military? I was like, no. And I noticed you got the flag behind you, but I was like, no. I said, why did you ask? He said, well, you're in the military. I could have given you like bonus points, like 5, 10 points. I was like, I could be in the military today. Seriously, I was like, man, I got to pass this test, but my family and all this stuff. But long or short, I went back and I studied. And when I passed on my brother's birthday, man, to be honest with you.
Wow.
So that's something I never forget. So God doesn't make mistakes and it's all about his timing. When I failed, another frat brother of mine basically called me. I think 89 brother was like, Sherman, you don't get your butt back in gear. Again, having that accountability, having that drive. You got this. This is for you. And I did it. And I never looked back, man, to be honest with you.
You know what?
So
I got to see you tell you. So I was a real estate broker in Illinois, and now I'm a realtor in Nashville. We're part of the same company. I'm with KW as well.
Yes.
But in Illinois, I was with Coldwell Banker. And in Illinois, they don't do realtor, either broker or managing broker. I took the exam 3 times.
Okay.
I made
Congrats.
A's all in the class. I
Yes.
took it the first time, failed it. I'm like, okay, I did what it did. Second time, I passed one half of it and failed the other part of it. The third time, I just remember thinking to myself, I don't know what else they want me to know, man. I was even reading the fine print,
Yes.
at the end of the
Yes.
paragraphs.
Yes,
I'm talking
man.
about, I knew the definitions backwards and forwards, man. I knew all the scenarios. I mean, I even got the book down here from the when I keep this as a monument, man, because
Yes.
whenever I get down on myself, I look at this book and was like, you can overcome anything. But I just got in there in that test, man, and I just was like, you know what? I'm not going to stress out about it. I'm just going to give it all up to God, man. There's nothing I don't know, man. I took my time and passed it. And so here it was a little bit easier because I had already been in the business and things like that. But the first time, so here I didn't do good on the state part, but I did good on the national, and I went back and did the state part or whatever. But I said it to say this, man. It was kind of like the same thing, man. A lot of people don't know
No,
that
they
real
don't.
estate exam ain't no joke, man.
It's not because number one, I think failure is good. I think it's productive because it just kind of, number one, you mentioned like ego and stuff. It lowers the ego. It's a humbling thing. But I think we can embrace failure because even if you fail, that doesn't mean that you resign yourself right there or quit. That's not your destiny. You don't put a period. You put a comma and you go back and dust yourself off and get back up, man. To be honest with you, the way I see it. But the way that the preparation for it and the way like even some of the contracts read, it's a lot of the and thus and notwithstanding this.
Right.
And so it reads differently than we speak in our day-to-day conversation, man. So you got to put the time in, but if you can get to the other side of it, the other thing is if you test well, how are you going to go about business? How are you going to go about getting business? How can you articulate your value to let someone give you, I guess, or entrust you to help them buy an asset, which is one of the biggest purchases they'll probably ever make, or let you list their property for a profit. You understand what I'm saying? So, and it's a lot of different ways people can find success in real estate. It's not really a one to a box method, man, but I'm just a people's person. I'm passionate about it. And housing is a necessity and something that we'll all need forever. You have to.
So when you first got in real estate, man, tell me about like when you first started. All right, so you got your license now. You go to like the firm and stuff. So how did you go about like all right, okay, I'm in it, because I know for me after I passed it, I'm like, all right, cool. I got the license out the way. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna tell some people I'm a realtor, and I'm like, man, nobody's coming to me for no real estate help or no real estate advice or whatever. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big myth that people think that like just when you graduate from college or just when you pass these exams, no matter what field, that all of a sudden everybody's just going to gravitate towards you just off of GP. You know what I mean?
I do. So I just kind of had a feeling, to be honest with you, man. Number one, I don't take what we get to do for granted. All right. All jokes aside, man. So I'm gonna I don't want to really rush through this part of it. So once I decided to join with Keller Williams Midtown, right down Peachtree Street, I felt like I was in the right place. So I definitely think for any agent that's coming to this business or for any professional that chooses to go work at a company, whether you're in nursing, education, coaching, whatever engineer, whatever field you're in, you've got to feel like you're in the right place to succeed, especially after you've had some career experience, whether you was in leadership, you kind of seasoned, you kind of know what's meant for you at that point. Sometimes if you're in a situation where you got to get a job, if that makes sense, right? Then you got to do what you got to do until you can find better. But being a realtor, you got to make sure that you feel like you're at the right brokerage, where you're getting the right education, the right support, and the right accountability. If not, you're going to just kind of fall to the wayside. With me, my habits and daily rituals are very, very important. I protect my mornings, man, to be honest with you. So every day, without exception, I read a devotional. Okay. Before I tap in, like before I'm getting into, if I'm feeling hip hopish or what have you, right? Before I go to the gym, all that and all that. I try to work out 3 days a week, at least 3 days a week. And I also, every day, I listen to Optimistic every day by Sounds of Blackness. That's probably one of the first songs I listen to every day. And then based on how I feel, I'll listen to 2 other different songs. Based on the kind of mood I'm in, right? So I kind of feed the mind, body, and soul first. Every day I pray and I give it to God because without him, none of this is possible. Let's just be clear. All right. In addition to that, once I finally got all of my like logins and stuff, the MLS systems and everything, I knew it was time for me to introduce myself as a realtor. So a lot of people are heavy on social media. So I made a post. It got a lot of good response on Facebook and Instagram. And I ain't really on there a lot every day. You know what I'm saying? So I post some of the stuff and come off. But I said that's one of my goals this year, just to kind of be a little bit more visible and also be more active on social. And then you got to pick that phone up and call people. And then you always got to have a business card in hand at the ready to make contact. You understand what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And for me, like, I rely on my strengths. Like, I feel like I bring good energy. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
and so if I meet total strangers, man, like for an example, real quickly, I was in an Uber last night going to the United game, and like Keller Williams put on this event. We had that experience. But my Uber driver and I was talking. This guy was from the Ivory Coast. He was just like, I'm not in the market right now, but one of my good friends. So we exchanged numbers, and he's going to give me his friend's information. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you got to always be willing to do that, man. I've met people in Publix, the sporting goods, folks I've actually closed transactions from, because if you make eye contact and if it's warm, then say hello. And then if you say
Right.
hello, you found a common interest, and you can just insert, hey, by the way, if I can be of service to you, if I can be a resource, hey, don't hesitate. Oh, you sell real estate, man, you caught me right on time. So like I said, it's right on all those sort of things, like timing and proximity is everything. One of the things at Keller Williams, they asked that you do, they were just like, you go through and you call different people. Like, you can use alphabets. You can start with like A to Z and do those different type things. Just kind of having processes where you contact people. So one of the things that I did, one of the things that helped me was I said, let me write down or look at my phone. I probably got over 2,000 contacts in my phone, but let me start by calling people that put a smile on my face. Meaning, if
Wow.
I call them, regardless if I hadn't talked to them in whatever period of time, I can introduce myself as Sherman Giles. Hey, I've basically taken my career to Keller Williams. I'm in real estate full time. Let me serve your needs, right? And so,
Gotcha.
hey, do you know of anybody? Do you think you may have any plans, whether you're looking to stay in your house, buy an investment property, or if you're in earshot of a conversation and you know someone who at least looking to buy a house in the next 6 months or what have you, 30, 60, 90 days, all I ask is that you just make the introduction. I got it from there. And you know I'll take great care of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
No,
so
that's
how
perfect.
you shown up in the past for people, I think people take that into consideration. And you're not going to be able to work with everybody, if I'm
Right.
just being honest. But those that do trust you, you better work with them like your life depends on it, because they're counting on you to be honest, have integrity, and get them to the closing table, man.
Right.
Blank period.
Man,
And it's
that's
repetition.
yeah, no, that's very powerful, man. Like, it was just kind of like, especially like when you say you're out and about and then you have your business cards and have to be a service. And that can be, I consider myself, I'm a very social person, man. Like, I
Yeah.
could talk to anybody, but
We
a
both
lot of
can,
times
Travis.
when it comes to business, it can be a little bit intimidating. And, I know a lot of people are probably like, what, Travis, sometimes you get intimidated. Yeah, well, yeah, like, especially like when, you're making the cold calls and things like that, where you just call down a list and things. And so you can kind of psych yourself out of things like, oh man, they probably not trying to listen to me or hear from me or things like that or whatever, man. But then you have to think about it. Everybody who has reached a level of extreme success start at one point or another was in your shoes, just
Yes.
getting started. And it was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And then we're just going to see what happens. And, it becomes a repetition and a repetition and repetition and over again. And then after a while, it becomes you. It becomes a part of you. You know what I mean? And then that way it becomes easier and easier. But a lot of it, man, that first step, man, sometimes can be very intimidating, man. And it's kind of like I put it to like the Bible verse, man. That first phase of intimidation is a part of the Lord's prayer. Either I walk through the valleys and shadows of death, or fear no evil. Sometimes,
Come on, man.
that intimidation is the valleys and shadows that you are facing. And you said, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. That's your confidence, man. And then that you will be able to get through whatever it is you're able to get through, because, God is walking with you, man. So,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I think about that a lot. A lot of times when I go into situations where I'm a little bit nervous, even if I know like the product or even if I know what I'm talking about and I'm fluent, sometimes I have to say to myself, okay, yea, though I walk through the valleys and shadows of death, I shall fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah,
23rd
man.
Psalm. No,
Yeah.
Travis, listen, man. So My parents made sure that we learned that, grandmother, all way up until now, from way back in the day. But it's funny you mentioned that. So affirmations are the real big part of it. And I'll give you one that I say every day as well. I'm greater than or equal to anything that comes my way.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a very
You
good
can
one.
have that, man. I'm
Yeah.
greater than or equal to anything that comes my way. Meaning that you may be bigger than me, more powerful. And one of the worst things that you can do is basically, they always say imposter syndrome, but don't try to model yourself after somebody who's years, 20, 30, 40 years in the game. Their social media might be on 10. Regardless of what they're doing, there's still business for you. There's still clients for you. And you just got to show up every day believing in what you have is of value, basically, to just kind of draw that particular client in or those clients in and rinse and repeat, man, to be honest with you.
Right.
Yeah, so affirmations are good. You're about to ask a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about what you're saying. Like, it's like, just because there are a lot of people out there doing something you're doing. I always go back to when people say, like, hey, if you go to the grocery store and go down the bread aisle, they was like, it is so many different makers of bread, but it's not stopping any one of them from making a product.
Come on,
so
man.
that should let you know that there's enough space for everybody. And and everybody's not going to work with you, and you have to be okay with that. And you will not be able to work with everybody. But you said something that was very good, man. The people that are willing to work with you, you need to work with them like your life depended on it. You know, because that builds that character and that builds that trust. And then once you do that, then it becomes a snowball effect. I think you was telling me that earlier with one of our mutual friends, Fred Brother Walt, how you got like
that's why I started smiling.
You end up selling him a house or getting him a house and things like that. And then you said it became a snowball effect, man.
So let me pick it back on that. So that day, I remember like it was yesterday. So we all lived through COVID. So I got licensed, COVID hit. And I'm like, oh crap, I done burned the boat. Seriously, I done burned the boat. Like, how do I navigate now COVID? Like, I know I'm a good salesman, but man, I can't sell against this COVID piece. You know what I'm saying? But man, I actually, man, believe it or not, man, I was rookie of the year in my office that year by way of COVID. But I was making phone calls that afternoon, going down my list, calling people who made me smile. I called Johnny Edwards, another one of our good friends. I called Johnny. Johnny was like, hey, Sherman, look, man, we think a lot of you. Call Walter right now. Like, Walter is literally in the market to buy a house, and he would love to work with you. I legit took his advice. I called him right then. He was in a meeting. He said, Sherman, I'll get back to you. He called me back. He gave me his wish list, and I didn't discount his level of service because we had that relationship, but because we're friends. Man, I sent an email, did my summary and recap. When we hit the streets, we got going. That was another one. Another buddy of mine, another frat brother, what have you, was having a birthday party. Everybody got creative COVID. This guy had a birthday party in the parking lot of a funeral home. One of his good friends owned the funeral home. They were just like, as long as you're not weirded out, we'll be out there. We'll have a good time. Man, Travis, I walked out. I pulled up. I bought a 12-pack of Miller Lights. It's one of my favorite beers. In a can, right? So I'm always down to have a good party with that. When I pulled up, they joked me out here like, man, this guy pulled up with Miller Lights. And at the end of the party, they were drinking the heck out of them. So I'm glad
I know, right?
but listen, though, so that case of Miller Lights, it spurred a conversation like, hey, man, I got to pause. I got to put my boy on. This is my boy Sherman. He's a realtor in Atlanta. And in fact, he's going to help you and your wife buy y'all's house, man. So y'all get each other's numbers. That was like on a Saturday. I called a guy. He was in the bank. He was like, man, I was just in the bank. I was just about to call you. He said, can we go out this weekend? I got 2 closings back to back, just like that. And the funny story, this particular guy and Walt ended up that they kind of worked in the same capacity, but it was just like, man, are you using Sherman? They didn't even know, you see what I'm saying, that they were using me. And again, stuff just kind of kept me. It was like back to back to back, man. So again, it's just those types of things. And I want to go back to something. When you start out, like I mentioned, it's important that you get with the right brokerage. You got to know like the different questions to ask. And because I had previous sales experience, previous management experience, presentation skills, I knew the questions to ask people in leadership from an expectation. And I got my butt up and I went to that office every day. So once I dropped my kids at school, I would pull up in the office every day like I'm going to work. And then another buddy of mine was like, man, when you first came in here, man, you were so aggressive. You walking all in people's offices and stuff, asking them, like, hey, man, like what you got going on? What you working on? And man, I was just eager to learn because I'm like, man, if they could be successful, I can make it happen too. Does that make sense? So I had a little bit of like savings and stuff like that. So I might have been, it might have taken me 3 or 4 months before I got my first deal closed. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you will need some savings or whatever that looks like. It may look different for everybody before you kind of get that ramp up and build momentum. And once you kind of get the savings and stuff like that, you get transactions going, and you just got to rinse and repeat, because every week, every 2 weeks, every month, there is no check coming unless you find yourself on the investment side where you've kind of got some rental properties or whatever the case, or some other ways to basically offer yourself your consistent income while you're kind of in the process of transactions being worked, man.
So are you doing investment in rental properties as well?
Not yet. No, that is a goal of mine. I don't have any rental property, but that is a goal of mine. So the way I see it, man, with me being 48, I'd probably say, man, over the next 20 years, I do have a goal just personally to have at least 25 doors. I think that's very realistic, man, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with modeling. So there are a lot of people that I know that are in the investment space. They fix and flip. They're doing some development stuff, and they buy and hold, man, for just kind of long-term profit outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man, nah, that's what's up, man. That's some pretty interesting stories, man. So what about, like, has there ever been a time where, like, you're working with a client and either, like, the house that they wanted, it didn't go through, or, there's a clients that you probably, y'all had to part ways or things like that, or has any of those situations ever arisen?
Of course. Of course. So COVID was very, very competitive, man. So I've seen some crazy stuff in my day. So basically, some people will go under contract, and in order to get the house under contract, people would bid way above the list price. So for an example, if a house is 500,000, somebody may say, I'm gonna throw down 525. You see what I'm saying? Just to get the house. And so actually that'll make that buyer contract more attractive than other buyers who might be competing. And so the rule of thumb is, if your client likes it, then 10 other people like it as well. So you better be able to get on the phone with that listing agent and let them know that you can deliver them a contract that's going to close. That's one example. Another piece is where people were kind of going under contract and basically saying, hey, I'm going to just kind of take all of my protections out of the deal, meaning I don't want any inspections. I don't want any finance contingency.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want any due diligence. And so your client would have to be totally confident, and some people will be willing to lose earnest money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Knock on wood, I never had to do that, because my thing is, it's almost like you don't ever want something so bad to where you give all of yourself. You don't want to leave yourself exposed in that capacity. Does that make sense? If you can write good terms, and if you communicate well, and if you come across as someone who knows what they're doing, if you're on the buy side, then that agent will actually work with you. If your listing is all about pricing right, where's the location of the property? What is the condition of the property? And what are properties selling for that's similar in make or style to that particular property that's on the market? What is sold in the past 30 days? And you turn it around and you show that seller, I know we want this price, but if you were on the other side of this, if you were a buyer, if your house, because now you got to separate this property from like the birthdays or the Christmases or whatever you celebrated. This now becomes a business vehicle for you. Is your house in the condition, is it competitive enough to get $50,000, $30,000 above what you think it is when the market says, based on where this house is, can go at this particular price, and get it sold in a reasonable time? Am I going to be able to get you to go under contract under 10 days, which is realistic, maybe the first 2 weeks with coming on market? You see what I'm saying? Or less than 30 days.
Sometimes with the sellers, man, they think it's worth way more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So that's another negotiation in itself.
Well, you kind of have to have honest dialogue with them about it too, to be honest with you. And once you get to a certain price points stay on the market a lot longer too. So if you look at like rates, or like I think rates finished last week about like 6.25 or 6.25 or something like that. They've kind of inched up over the past 2 weeks. But also properties are staying on market a lot longer right now too. So you kind of have to educate them on that as well. So if you know, based on their situation, if they need to sell in a short period of time, then you might want to lower that price to where it can be more attractive and they can just kind of sell shorter than basically the average days on market. So about maybe 40 plus days on market there about right now.
Right. So do you find it easier to work with sellers or buyers, man? Me personally, when I was in Illinois, I used to work with a lot more buyers than sellers, only because I was still working a full-time job, and it was like, I guess it probably would have been better working with sellers, but I don't know. I just always worked a lot more with buyers than I have with sellers.
So the majority of my business is buyer heavy, but I have done my fair share of listings as well. And I enjoy both. I think when you work with buyers, it just kind of and there's different buyers. So you've got the legit first time home buyer, the forever
Right.
home buyer, and then you got somebody who might be on the investment side of the table. So based on their preparedness, their willingness, even if they bought a house 5 years ago, then the market always changes. So you have to be up
Right.
on like finance and pricing and what's going on in the market, so you can speak specific to their needs and set the right expectation with what they expect of you, how you can serve them, and the common goal is basically get them in the right house that's right for them.
Right.
Even with sellers, right? Depending upon their situation, it's all about timing, if that makes sense. Like I said, the condition of the property and their willingness to trust you with their asset to get their house sold. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Like, yeah, you seem like you very thorough. You taking the serious. I didn't know it was 6 years though, man. Seemed like you. It seemed
Time.
like I saw you posting the other day talking about you were a realtor. And now you're saying it's been 6 years or whatever. Don't seem like it's been that long, man.
Time flies when you're having fun. And shoot, Travis, we're already in March of 2026 now, man. To be
I
honest with
know,
you,
right? Daylight saving times and all that stuff. And
listen.
yeah,
I remember one of the first new construction deals I did, man. And when I say new construction, it wasn't like from the ground up in terms of like me working with like an individual developer. It was like in a development community that was being constructed. And I was out there, I said, man, let me get some good footage. So we out there shooting a video, and I got finished with the video, and I was just like, that's it. I was like, did I do good? He was like, yeah, you did good. And so that was still in my video. So I was so excited. I didn't edit the video. I posted it. And a few people like folks from high school, man, another buddy of mine, man, my boy Rico sent me a text. He was like, hey, Sherman, good job, man. But they were like, yeah, you did good. They were just kind of ribbing me, man. My little
yeah,
buddy,
yeah,
man,
yeah.
girl named Tennille from high school. You did that, friend. But again, it's kind of like showing people the authentic you, man. Just know that
Yeah.
you're learning through this whole process. You're not trying to be perfect, and you don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be disciplined. And you do have to be honest with people. You've got to be on time, and you've got to show up every day, man, even if you don't feel like it, man, to be honest.
Man, yes, that can be a struggle in itself. Hey, so two last questions before we wrap it up. Where do you see yourself, man, in the next 5 or 10 years, with real estate? And then also, what advice would you give, like to anybody who is just getting started or want to switch careers, and want to start the business and do what you do?
Wow. So I would definitely say the next 5 years or so, kind of doing what you did as well, just kind of going down the broker pathway, man. I do think that I've done enough deals and transactions not to be cocky, but just to always show up as a student every day where I can just kind of learn and implement and just kind of grow for myself and model, but also give back and help other agents that are wanting to come into the business and do it the right way and be successful. Because I do believe there's enough business for everybody. It really, really is. Like, I can't help everybody, right? Because it's only 24 hours in a day. But if
Right.
you can just kind of give back and just kind of impart belief and give them good structures and teach them how to fish, and I think they could also be successful, right?
Mhm.
Like I said, I want one of my also main goals. I want to get into the development piece. When I say learning how to just kind of get into real estate as an investor, get on that particular
Mhm.
side of it, because it's possible, to be honest with you. Um, Another thing, Travis, I also believe that something that helps me out, even like we've got our faith and all that, but man, this guy named Les Brown, always pull from Les. He's one of my favorite motivational speakers, man.
Yeah, that guy's good. Yes,
He,
he's
he's
phenomenal.
he's 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 powerful, and one of the things I always took from Les is that it's not over until I win. And so,
Yes.
if you wake up with that kind of attitude, and I think he developed that because him and his son was playing like a board game or something. He was telling that story. It was getting late. It was like, man, let's go to bed. And his son said, "No, Dad, it's not over until I win." So if you wake up with that kind of mindset, it's not over until I win. Like, failure is not an option. Like,
Right.
I might not be perfect. I might, you know what I'm saying, just have like some troubles or some things, hit some rough water, but I'm not gonna quit on myself. And I know I've got
Gotcha.
people like yourself and just an enormous friend group and some associates that always say, "Hey, Sherman, hey, we rooting for you, man." So that kind of stuff, it means a lot, and I don't take it for granted, man. To be honest with you, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. So tell everybody, man, go ahead and plug yourself, man. How can people get in touch with you? Where you're located, and let's tell them how to get in touch with you, man. On and all the social media stuff you got.
All right, cool, man. So I'm Sherman Giles on Facebook, Sherman the Realtor on Instagram. Those are the main two that I use. Like, I'm surprised I don't even have a TikTok, and And I know a buddy of
You're on
mine.
LinkedIn too, right?
I am on LinkedIn at Sherman Giles. Yeah, thank you for that. LinkedIn is very, very pivotal. Then also, man, Travis, I answer my cell phone, man. If you call this phone, I will answer this. My personal cell phone, the only phone I've had, 2022, 2001, 205-368-0030. So if you call me, I will answer. And I'll just kind of show up and just kind of provide you excellent levels of service. And I'm somebody that you can count on and rely on, man. And fundamentally, I always tell my clients this. If it's not good enough for me and my family, it's not good enough for you. So I believe in treating people like I want to be treated, man. Whether I'm helping you buy a house or sell a house. Point
Hey,
blank.
that's some words for that. That's some good wisdom right there. If it's not good enough for me and my family, then hey, I wouldn't do that to you, man. So good. Hey, Sherman, we definitely got to have a part 2 with you, man.
Okay, thank you.
You got a lot of knowledge, man. And I mean, like, I know if you don't notice or not, I was a little quiet for a second because I was just so caught up in a lot of stuff you were saying, and I know you got a lot more like knowledge and a lot more stuff to give. And to be honest with you, maybe one day we'll be hearing people, instead of saying, people say, "Have you heard Les Brown motivational speeches?" Hey, you heard Sherman Giles motivational speeches, man. I mean, very, very good, man. Very entertaining.
Thank you.
No,
I'm gonna take you up on that, man. I know there's more for me, man. As they say, God ain't through with me yet, man. He's brought me this far, and as the song says, he's brought me too far to leave me. What I will also tell you too, man, I'm gonna tip my hat to you. To be honest with you, thank you for bringing me on and just kind of sharing this time and space, and everyone who's gone before me, man. I think, matter of fact, I know you've got something with this, so keep showing up for yourself and just kind of being basically a platform for other people to kind of do good and share their story, man. It's a lot more to be said, man. Keep going,
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it. And that's what I'm here for. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Sherman Giles. He's a full-time, once again, top producing realtor. And I didn't even know he had Rookie of the Year at his firm. So that says a lot in itself. That just shows his character, and he's really dedicated and passionate about helping you find the home for you and your family. He also has over 15 plus years on marketing and finance. So he'll make sure he sets you up for success. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put everything, link in the bio and stuff, how you can get in contact with Sherman Giles if you're moving to the Atlanta area. He's the realtor that you want to look out for you. Hey, man, I always tell people, man, like I always say, keep it country, keep it cowboy, and God bless America, man.
That part, man. My brother.
All
Thank
right.
you, Trav.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, my brother.